All right, happy Monday, everyone. It is 3:40 p.m. and this is digital host A.J. Wuest welcoming you back to Before the Four, of course, the live stream where I go through some of 48's top news stories and then some before our 4 o'clock newscast. I hope everyone had a great weekend this past weekend, and welcome back to Before the Four. So let's begin this week with a look at the weather, as we've been seeing patches of rain in many areas here across the Tennessee Valley all day. The threat of heavy rain remains present as we head into the evening. Fortunately, I'm hearing that the rain is expected to clear out by tomorrow, and it's looking like it's going to be a beautiful next couple days. Let's turn over to 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis for a look at what to expect. Brad?
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. The severe weather threat pretty much over as we go into the evening hours, but we're still watching a few of these thunderstorms out there today. So far, we just had a lot of heavy rain, a lot of lightning with a few of these. Let's go to the radar, and you'll see the one near Hazel Green. Got some lowering of the clouds out there. You're going to see a lot of motion with the clouds out here today, too. So just the fact there's so much water in the air, we'll continue to monitor that. But right now, a lot of lightning up there just before 3:30 today, and then as we go out to the west, more intense lightning out here west of Waterloo. But what we're watching is there's a rain-cooled boundary that kind of came in here this morning, and I think it's going to suppress a little bit more development as we go on into the late afternoon, early evening hours. By about 5 o'clock, we continue to see the chance for these showers and thunderstorms tracking to the east. They should be out of here by 7 o'clock this evening. And then the front moves through overnight. Not bad. Patio forecast, some thunderstorms out there between 6 and 7 o'clock. But once this boundary moves to your south and east, it will be over. Here's your 3-day forecast. Temperatures still in the mid-80s tomorrow, but the humidity noticeably lower. We are watching the potential for some fog probably tomorrow morning and Wednesday morning as well. If we get a calm wind and a clear sky, that's just because of the recent rainfall we've had. We'll talk 10-day forecast and our next big chance of rain today at 4.
And also, you can't forget about Weather Extra. Again, that will be going on tonight at 9:30. 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis will be back here in the CTV Center, and he'll have the latest on what's going on the radar. Again, that is tonight at 9:30. You can watch it wherever you're watching Before the Four this afternoon. But now we're going to move into a bit of news. Now in Huntsville, where earlier today we learned that a man was arrested on an aggravated child abuse charge. This after an infant was taken to the hospital in critical condition. Police say yesterday they responded to a local hospital following reports of an injured infant. Medical staff told officers that the child had sustained injuries consistent with child abuse. Officials say the infant is now in critical condition. Following an investigation, it was determined that 24-year-old Victavius Dennis, that's who you see on screen, was alone with the infant in his home when the injuries occurred. Dennis was booked into the Madison County Jail, where he is being held without bond. But now moving out to Morgan County, where the public information officer for the sheriff's office announced today his campaign for a city council seat in Huntsville. Mike Swafford announced that he will be running for the district city council seat. Swafford says he will be running for place 5 and that if he is elected, it would not affect his current position within the Morgan County Sheriff's Office. 5 others have also announced their campaigns for a seat, and you can read Swafford's full announcement right now on our website. Just go to WAFF.com. And staying in Morgan County, Decatur City Councilman Hunter Pepper today announced that he will be seeking re-election. Pepper, who represents District 4, says he will look to further promote growth both in business and residential areas of Decatur in a potential next term. He also plans to continue to promote youth activities and better the quality of life for Decatur residents. Now, of course, Pepper has not shied away from controversy during the years of his first term as city councilman, including some hot takes over the shooting death of Steve Perkins back in 2023 and some questionable reactions to several posts on social media. Election Day in Decatur is set for August 26th. But now moving back to Madison County to the town of Moores Mill, where the local volunteer fire department has seen a huge uptick in volunteer crew members in such a short amount of time. They say the goal is to continue growing in order to serve the community. 48's Noah Cowell spoke with members of the Moores Mill Volunteer Fire Department and has more. Let's take a look.
Zachary Trolson says things were looking bleak for Moores Mill Volunteer Fire a couple of years ago. They were down to just 20 volunteer firefighters, and that was simply not enough. Moores Mill's call volume is one of the highest in Madison County, and that created compounding problems. The firefighters who stayed were getting burnt out.
Having those lower numbers led to even more people leaving the service because not only were they running calls over and over and felt like they were the only ones putting in that effort, but also they would have to go into a fire. They'd get maybe 3 minutes of downtime and then have to go back inside of the fire as soon as their bottle gets changed out, which is just not a safe situation for them to be in.
But fast forward to today, with Moores Mill Fire nearly doubling its volunteers with 38 firefighters on the roster. And that doesn't even take into account the 10 to 15 recruits that are still in training. Trolson attributes this turnaround to their new website and improved training process and allowing those who don't live in the area to be volunteers.
We don't care if you live in Birmingham. If you can give us 12 hours a month, we want you. They can actually stay here at the station so that it increases our response time. We can get a fire engine on scene as quick as possible, which is really important.
The department's goal is to eventually get all the way up to 100 volunteers at once.
The more people we get in, the more effectively we can rescue the public. If we did have 100 firefighters, then that would make it to where not everybody's having to run every single call that comes out. That number of 12 hours a month really only works when we have 100 people. Then it's like we have 24-hour coverage.
It's certainly great to see the growth there. But now a story in case you missed it, an update to the decision on whether to revoke the business license of a troubled youth facility is down to the Owens Crossroads City Council. This after a 4-hour meeting over it back on Friday when ultimately led to no final decision being made. 48's Nick Ballinger attended that meeting and has more.
5 witnesses spent more than 4 hours giving their testimony surrounding a facility for troubled teen girls in Owens Crossroads was the final step for months of due process. Pathway is a DHR facility that houses and cares for kids who have had problems in and around the foster care system. Richard White, the program director, says the girls they care for aren't much different than other girls their age.
A lot of the differences with the kids that we have currently at Pathway is they don't have their parents and they're not in contact with their siblings. That makes it even more difficult and adds a layer of difficulty to have them deal with their trauma.
Last fall, there was a riot inside the facility. Since then, it's been under heavy scrutiny from the Owens Crossroads City Council and neighbors. City Clerk Christy Easton filed a recommendation for the facility to lose its business license after a girl escaped in January, claiming Pathway didn't comply with city ordinances and committed multiple safety violations. Pathway attorney Rick Hall disputes those claims.
Yeah, I want the community to know that because these children are being vilified to motivate people to oppose this facility that's trying to do good work.
He argues the city had motivation to close the facility for reasons other than ordinance violations.
Your ordinance doesn't say anything about taking
No,
care
sir,
of the kids. Okay.
But I mean, when you get complaints and you have petitions brought to you and all kinds of things like that, I mean.
Are you saying you considered petitions from the citizens?
No, I'm just saying that is part of the whole process.
Since the riot, Pathway fired its executive director and has vowed to do anything reasonable the council asked to keep the doors open.
Good update there from Nick. But now coming up after the break, we'll go through a few stories in state news. The Yellowhammer State has a new first dog and a country music superstar coming to Huntsville this September. We'll go through it all in 1 minute. All right, well, my time is up. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Before the Four. Now, in a bit of state news, Alabama law enforcement officials are noticing a concerning trend in fatal crashes this year. They're finding that some victims of deadly accidents had been using a workaround to keep their seatbelt warning from sounding. Sally Pitts has more.
Before you hit the road, law enforcement officers say you should buckle up no matter how short the drive. Captain Jeremy Burkett with the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency says wearing a seatbelt increases your chance of surviving a car crash. Aaliyah reports nearly 60% of people who have died in crashes this year were not wearing a seatbelt.
Cars now come with technology that reminds you to put on your seatbelt, a flashing light or a beep that won't stop until you buckle up. But state troopers say some drivers have found a way around that.
You can buy the ends, the plug, the buckle plug as we refer to it, to go inside the seatbelt, which would stop the vehicle from dinging.
Captain Burkett says Alabama troopers have worked fatal accidents where someone manipulated the seatbelt to keep the alarm from sounding.
And that's just a tragedy for us. So when we get to a vehicle crash and somebody's lost their life and they don't have their seatbelt on, and we go in there and we see where they've got the buckle plug inside the seatbelt.
It is the law in Alabama to wear your seatbelt no matter where you sit in the car.
And now staying in state news, Alabama now has a new first dog. Governor Kay Ivey announced today that Huntley, that's who you see on screen with Governor Ivey, is the new first dog of Alabama. Huntley is a 3-year-old female yellow lab. She lives inside the governor's mansion with Governor Ivey, and on occasion she will even have the opportunity to join the governor for some important business inside the Capitol office. Ivey says Huntley has already adjusted to life at the mansion, and you can see a photo of Governor Ivey with Huntley there. But awesome story there. But if you're a fan of country or pop country here in North Alabama, listen to this. Today, Luke Bryan announced he's coming to the Orion Amphitheater this September. Bryan will take the stage on September 4th at 7 p.m. May Estes, Cole Goodwin, Adrian Nunez, and DJ Rock are also on the bill that night. Tickets go on sale this Friday at 10 a.m. And Bryan, of course, has released 30 #1 hits, and his songs have been streamed nearly 20 billion times worldwide. But yes, some exciting acts coming to the Orion this summer, including Lil Wayne as well, which we told you about last week. You're just not going to want to miss them. And of course, speaking of things you're just not going to want to miss, let's head into the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. Speaking with a state trooper in the Shoals regarding DMV scams, we'll have more on those scams and what you need to know in order to avoid getting scammed coming up. Another story you're just not going to want to miss, more changes coming to the Decatur Police Department regarding additional positions, what this means for city residents coming up from 48's Callie Neese, and finally an update to the storm damage in Killen. 48's Aria Pons will have the latest regarding cleanup efforts out there, and these are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss coming up in our evening newscast. And it is 3:54. It is time for Facebook fun, and of course, our 48 Facebook question of the day. Where do you plan on going for vacation this summer? And I have already had my vacation. I went to Daytona Beach a couple weeks ago. It was a great time with the family, but what I want to know is where you all are going. And let me tell you, you all had some really good responses to today's question. So without further ado, let's send them. It looks like Jim DeFore is going to LA, and that of course is Littleville, Alabama. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Susan said El Backyardio. She is being a backyardigan this summer. A great place to be also, especially in the sun. Anita said a 9-day train trip across Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco, for her birthday. Well, happy 70th birthday, Anita. Brad said the mountains of North Carolina. That is a very pretty area as well. And Brooke said Tybee Island in 15 days. Tybee Island is an awesome beach. It's kind of a low-key kind of beach. It's not crazy like Panama City or Orange Beach sometimes gets. So that will be fun. Michelle just got back from a cruise. I love cruises. They are so much fun. And one of my favorite things about cruises is, of course, the food that you can eat on those ships. There's nonstop food, buffet style. You gotta love it. And of course, the excursions that you can go on as well as different places. But cruises are fun. I think we have time for a couple others. So let's see. We have this one right here. Destin. Jessica is going to Destin in July. That is very awesome. And let's see. We might have time for one more. Look at this one. It looks like hopefully this one will stay up a little bit longer. Annette said she is going to Germany. Well, Annette, I hope you have a great time in Germany. That is certainly on my bucket list as well. So that sounds like that is an awesome trip. Well, y'all, thank you all for commenting on today's 48 Facebook question of the day. It always makes my day seeing what you all have to say, but that is just about all the time I have for today's Before the Four. But I want to thank you all for sticking around, spending a bit of your Monday afternoon here watching Before the Four, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or the 48 Now live stream. It always makes my day. Well, I hope you all enjoyed tonight's evening newscast. Enjoy Weather Extra tonight with Brad Travis. Again, that starts at 9:30 tonight, wherever you're watching Before the Four right now. And as always, stay weather alert, stay safe out there. It should not get too crazy, but of course, if it does, Brad Travis is here and he'll keep you updated with the latest that's on the radar. But have a great night. Enjoy tonight's evening newscast. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You all have a great night.